Role-playing, the acting out of a particular role or character for the time that one chooses, generally including, but not limited to, acting, dressing up fancily, putting on a funny voice, or playing a game and telling a story. At least that's what I consider role-playing. I'm Marc Teske, and I'm a nerd that plays D&D, or Dungeons & Dragons as it's better known. And I play it for many reasons. It is a fun hobby, an emotional and creative outlet, therapeutic at times, and why I'm up here, role-playing. But what is role-playing? According to the dictionary, role-playing is the acting out of a particular role or character. I think many people in here would agree that it is worded a bit weirdly. But role-playing by itself is simple enough. But I still believe that role-playing is more in people's lives than you may think. Even if you are someone that thinks it's for nerds and you will never role-play in your life, there are probably ways you may see it that you don't expect. The most obvious version of this is in therapy. Role-playing is often used in therapy in many different ways. The act of putting yourself in someone else's shoes can be considered role-playing. Or another idea of pretending your conflicts or problems are a different thing entirely, so you can figure out what's wrong with them, how to solve them, and how to get through them. Another way many people may have heard of it is dressing up fancy for something important, like an interview or a speech. I know I was told this many times before coming on stage today. But there's more to role-playing than just dressing up and acting. Part of role-playing that I think should truly be embraced is a game. A game I like to call Dungeons & Dragons, but there's much more role-playing games than just Dungeons & Dragons. There are many role-playing worlds, including Star Wars, Avatar: The Last Airbender, or Lord of the Rings. But by far, Dungeons & Dragons has got to be the most well-known. And why Dungeons & Dragons? Well, there's a lot to Dungeons & Dragons that can have a massive impact on many people. A big part is laughter. You can tell jokes and stories even though you're just rolling dice at a table. There's nothing stopping you from just having fun and doing what you want. The appeal of fantasy is an incredible thing. You don't have to be so far-fetched as an adventurer that can fight dragons. You can simply be an elf wizard that likes to work in a library, or Rockdoc, an orc barbarian who wants to be a musician one day and start a rock band. Or even the simple fantasy of getting 8 hours of sleep every night, because face it, that is a fantasy. There are many things you can do in role-playing or Dungeons & Dragons. Another part is the randomness of it all. It's like life, and that there is randomness. There's dice that you roll, and that's part of it all. And life is random too, but there are things you can control. You play a game, you have a sheet, and there are rules, but you continue to play and have fun. As part of it though, there are stories with Dungeons & Dragons that are incredible parts of it. A story that is shared with me is a story of two friends. These two friends, or players and characters, were friends in their story. And as they are friends, they've known each other for a long time, until the second character disappeared one day, without a trace. And they came back months later. And when they came back, an argument started. Why did you leave? Why did you disappear for so long? Why did you leave me behind without so much as a word? They couldn't respond. An argument started between those two characters, and tears were shed by the players and the characters. It's not just a game. Real anger of the players was getting resolved in a fictional fight. They weren't mad at each other. They were playing their game. Their characters were mad. And in the players, a part of them loosened, their soul. They got closer to each other because of it. After the game, all the people involved made sure that everybody was okay with what happened. Made sure everybody was happy, had a fun time, and things of the like, which they all did. Another point of why they had to make sure everyone was okay was the medium. D&D is a very broad medium, and its accessibility is very open for anybody. If you look online, there may be expensive books or minis you can buy, but you don't need any of them. Every rule you can find in a book can be found online for free, and any rule that is written can be unwritten and made for your game so that it brings you fun. As proof of how accessible it is, the story of two friends wasn't even told at a table rolling dice. It's actually told in a game called Minecraft. You don't have to be at a table to have fun. You can just, the act of going to a fantasy world and escaping or facing some of your problems can be enough. And more to the accessibility is the community. Not just is it the players that you play with directly that are part of the community. There are many creators online that will post their own content to be inclusive to everybody that might want to play, including things to magical items, different races if you want to play something that's more fun, more spells or abilities, or something as simple as a wheelchair. You don't have to be special to be a hero. And more to the randomness is the dice. Most games will have dice, but not all of them. And say this random things of life, like the random things of dice. You can only do so much in life, and some of it is random. And sometimes the most hilarious things come from the random, like a stealthy person, a stealthy ninja sneaking through an arena or sneaking through a kingdom, only to step on a twig somewhere in the middle of the hall just because they rolled low. Or maybe even somebody in full plate armor carrying an elephant can sneak through a room and catch somebody by surprise if they roll well enough. You're not going to be in control of everything, but it is going to be there. Another aspect that I want to talk about is the emotional bond of D&D. There are a lot of things that can happen in D&D that you might not get to experience in the real world. Simple enough as fighting a dragon, but there are other things like getting to say goodbye. Not everybody is going to have all opportunities in life. Say you lost somebody important to you, and you don't know what to do with yourself. You don't expect it to get resolved. You never get to say goodbye. But you can do something similar. Through D&D, you could say you have a mentor, somebody you care about deeply, that's been there through you your whole life. And one day, you decide to go on an adventure. Through much deliberation, they tell you to go make your own story, figure stuff out for yourself, and make your own world. So you go. You become an adventurer and go collecting bounties and make friends along the way. Your friends are very close, and you talk about your mentor all the time and how much you adore them, and how you're taking this time away as an opportunity for yourself and them. You come back one day to your city, say a year later. You have several accommodations now. You've done many things, and you can't wait to tell your mentor all of them. Your friends are in tow as you want to show them everything you've seen from your hometown. But something happens while you're there. Disaster. Not everything will be in your control, but you can control some things, like how you respond. The city is all of a sudden burning, or some terror attacks from above, and you lose sight of your friends. Instead, your brain focuses on the mentor, the person you care about, and how you want to be with them, how you want to get to them and make sure they're okay. You know you can do something now. You can fight, you can protect. You have in the past, and you want to do so now. You start running and trying to find your mentor, and trying, searching every building you can that's still standing, until eventually you find their house. It's on fire and crumbling a little bit, but you run to the door, and you can't open it. There's something blocking it. And just as you're about to give up, your friends are right there with you. The one that's the strength of the group charges up to the door and just bashes right through it. Roll the dice, but say they do. You don't know what you're going to get on the other side of that door. It could be anything. They could still be alive, fighting for themselves. They could be already gone. But you're going to keep trying. It's all a roll of the dice. You have to keep trying. It's not going to be the same as what happened in your real life. It never will be. But sometimes you can get closure in the fact that I tried this time. Maybe I changed the outcome. Maybe I can't. There's many things that can happen in D&D, like resolving these past issues in a safe space for you to do whatever you want. And there are so many things you can't do as well, like change fate. It's an amazing world where you can experience, escape, and still face all of your problems of your daily life. And there are many things to it that should really be embraced. like being able to maybe say goodbye. You rush in the door and you catch them. They're on their last breaths, and you tell them everything you've wanted to tell them. Not just your character, but you, the player. You are telling the person you care about everything you've wanted to tell them because you couldn't in the past. And even symbolically, you can now. And that is an important factor that I think should really be embraced in all the different ways. The hilarity of rolling dice with friends, making inside jokes, and the emotional bonding of getting to say goodbye or whatever. That's why Dungeons & Dragons should really be embraced. Living and loving with Dungeons with Dragons. Thank you.